I'm just going to throw in a brackets because this all makes sense for someone to build a phenomenal business like you have, except the part, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but it's almost cliche. A perfectionist usually doesn't make a good entrepreneur because they get caught up in the minutiae and they won't move on to the next thing that you need to grow.
Yes. Yeah, that's
the only thing that doesn't make sense to me as I'm writing down.
It's a really, really good question because I've had to change I got good friends who will level with me about being a perfectionist. And that one of my friends said to me, actually, Scottie, he said, you actually might be on the spectrum, as Asperger's, because I'm that much of a perfectionist. And he said, look, I'll prove it to you. And he said, I want you to take the scales away. I want you to make a cup of coffee. And halfway through making the cup of coffee, he said, stop. And he weighed my dose of coffee grounds. And then he said, okay, make another one. And he weighed the second dose, and it was spot on, like dose after dose of, when you're dosing the coffee grounds into my hand, but it was spot on to the gram. And so that's how much of a perfectionist I am. So how does that kind of person who's a perfectionist build, like, have 160 staff and let go? And didn't trust other people.
This is so good.
So as I said, I ended up in Hong Kong. I was an employee here for 2 years. While I was here for 2 years, I dreamt up started fine print on Peel Street. When we had one shop, I was that perfectionist. The first shop on Peel Street.
Which one?
I'm the barista. I'm such a perfectionist. For the first 9 months, I was the only person who made every coffee for the first 9 months. I wouldn't let anyone else make coffee. So how do you grow from being that person to 10 shops and having 100 staff who make coffee in all of the shops?
Oh, sorry,
when we opened our second shop, I was still at the time working in both shops and behind the machine. And we opened our second shop. I had employed a guy named Rico to be the manager of the second shop. And I was there for the first 3 or 4 days, and he was getting really frustrated with me. He was getting, because I was there every day, all day, managing and telling people what to do and micromanaging everyone like a perfectionist. And he was getting really angry with me, and he pulled me into the kitchen, and he said, "Boss, can you please leave?" He said, "Can you please trust us? We've got it."
Nice. You pay me to manage, let me manage.
Yeah. And I looked at him and I thought to myself, this is going to be hard, Scottie, but you've got to walk out. And I said, okay.
Hang on, you did walk out of that movement?
I said, okay.
You walked the block, looked in, walked the block.
No, honestly. I said, okay. I said, Rico, I'm going to grab my stuff. I want to leave, and you won't hear from me for a couple of days. And I did it. I just...
How'd Rico go?
And it was...
How'd you go?
Well, as you would expect, him and the team, because what I learned at that time is a very important management lesson is I thought you needed to lead by example by being on the front line. But what I learned through that experience as a business owner is when you entrust other people with something that's your baby and you leave them to do it, they'll step up.
Yeah.
And they will do a better job because you've entrusted them with something that's really important to me, and they know that, so they will, and they rose to the challenge, and they did a better job than if I was there.
Yeah.
And Rico was the manager there for 2 or 3 years, and so that was the beginning of me learning the difference between being a micromanager and perfectionist, and realizing that I need to stop being a perfectionist and I need to learn what it means to be a leader, and the principles around sort of that particular lesson of, believing in your team, in trusting other people to, and other people can do as good a job as you, if not better job. And so, that was so to answer your question, I've had to self-evaluate that I am a perfectionist. And I need to let that part of me go. And I made a decision that I'll embrace a new challenge, which is learning how to be a leader and a business, and learning business, which I've spent the last 9 years of building this business. That's what I've spent doing. So instead of throwing my perfectionist nature into coffee, I've thrown my perfectionist nature into learning how to be a leader and how to run what is business.